of the idea that it is a mind that created everything, and it's not a mind at all.
Yeah, we always reason from effect back to cause. You're right about that. Let me ask you a question. If Christianity were true, would you become a Christian?
Well, what do you mean by that specifically?
If it turned out that God exists and Jesus predicted and accomplished his own resurrection from the dead to prove he was God, would you follow him?
So do you mean that everything in the Bible is 100% true?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm not necessarily Jesus, even if you manage to prove that he resurrected, doesn't prove that what the Bible teaches is true.
During the Change My Mind crusade at North Carolina State University, an agnostic student thoughtfully challenged the renowned published author, Frank Turek, on the nature of God, and even goes as far as calling his entire book a mistake. But what he didn't realize is that the author has met several staunch agnostics just like her, and it would not take a second to reduce her whole philosophy to dust right before her eyes. Let's get into it. But before then, kindly help this channel get one more subscription before the week runs out. It costs you nothing, but it means everything to us. Great. Thank you. Now let's begin.
There, my name is Jane.
Hey, Jane.
I'm not a Christian, but I do admire your tenacity to speak the truth.
Well, thank you for coming here.
Yeah, of course.
I appreciate it. Where would you say you are right now when it comes to thoughts about God?
Definitely agnostic, and I know you're going to say that makes me empty-minded because I've read your book.
No. What I said was in the book was that there are some things that you can know with relative certainty, and to deny those things, it wouldn't be open-mindedness, it would be empty-mindedness.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
empty-minded. Yeah.
Okay, but go ahead.
I have some various issues with your book. I'm sure a lot of it's outdated. The unity and diversity and etymology is not correct, for example. But I'm just going to say one kind of general question. Why would a perfect God create imperfect beings? He has the power to alter the laws of the universe in logic if he has theoretically created the universe, but he actively chose to create a world in which sin has the capacity to exist, and one where sin and suffering is necessary in order to appreciate good. Why couldn't he just create a world of all good that we could all accept that is perfectly good? Creating perfect beings would mean no mistakes in our judgment, which would mean no sin. Why could he not do that?
Okay, what you're saying is logically possible, but it might not be actual with free creatures.
Let me be honest. I actually understand the girl's question because it is something a lot of us have thought at some point. Her argument is simple. If God is perfect and all-powerful, why didn't he just create humans perfect so we could or would never sin? And she tries to go even further. She's not asking for forced obedience. She is basically saying, why didn't God give us minds so clear and hearts so good that we would always choose the right thing on our own? That sounds reasonable at first. It's like saying if you are designing a system, why not remove the possibility of failure or antiviruses attacking it? But when you slow it down, what she is really asking for is a world where people are free but never actually make a wrong choice. That is like asking for a car that can go anywhere but can never crash no matter how the driver behaves. At some point, that's not freedom anymore. That is programming. And here's another assumption buried in her question. She is speaking as if she already knows what a better creation should look like, as if we fully understand the purpose behind free will, suffering, and the whole human story. I mean, if there really is a creator who designed reality, it's possible the system is bigger than what we can see from a limited perspective. At the same time, I respect where she's coming from. Don't get me wrong. She's basically saying, I am not convinced. I am not going to believe something just because it is written in a book from 2,000 years ago, which is logical. That is not rebellion. That's someone saying, I need this to make sense before I jump in. It's a very fair place to start, believe me.
Because there's one thing that God can't do, and that is a contradiction. He can't force free creatures to do what he wants.
It's not forcing if we're all perfect with perfect minds who can reason that that's the correct answer.
Okay, but then if he doesn't give us free will to disobey, then there's no opportunity for love. Because love has to be freely given. Sure, God could have created a universe of robots, perfect robots that never break down, the code is always good, but would it be a moral universe if he did that?
Who knows? He's the one who created the law that we have to be imperfect to be moral.
No, I'm not following you there. What do you mean by that?
It mostly just in the sense that, simply having the capacity to sin doesn't mean that we would inherently sin should we have been created perfect. The fact that we did decide to stray means that we were created imperfectly.
No, not necessarily. You could give, according to the Bible, you could give a creature free will, created beautiful, like Satan, and if you give that creature the capacity to either obey or disobey, that creature has become a moral creature. And the same thing is true when it comes to Adam and Eve. When you say perfect, that needs to be unpacked. What does perfect mean? If perfect means that the person does not have the free will to disobey, I would argue that's not a perfect being. That's a robot.
Well, a robot comes from the modern sense of a robot.
Right. Well, in what sense would you mean that a being has free will and is not a robot? and always chooses the right way.
Well, from this general argument, because the stance is that God exists and therefore did create the universe and the laws that follow it, perfect is essentially just whatever he says. Is it not?
Right, again, but if he's forcing people to obey him at all, in every instance, then they're not free, and therefore they're not moral.
He could make forcing impossible.
What's that?
He could make forcing just an impossibility.
No, that would be a contradiction. And by the way, logic is not invented. Logic comes from God's nature, just like morality and mathematics come from his nature. So he can't do illogical things, like he can't create a square circle, or a one-ended stick, or a five-sided triangle, or an honest politician. What?
Did he not create logic?
No, he is logic. His nature is the ground of logic. So he couldn't create a world where the opposite of true is false, or a world where it wasn't that way. He couldn't create a world where God existed and not existed at the same time and in the same sense.
So he has infinite power except where he doesn't.
Power does not mean the power to do illogical things. It means power to do what is consistent with his nature.
Now, as you can see, the conversation has moved into something way deeper than how it started, how belief actually works. And this is where things get very, very real, because I hear two different ideas about belief all the time. One idea is that belief is only about evidence. You don't choose what to believe, you are convinced by what looks true. If the evidence for God doesn't feel strong enough, then you don't believe. It's that simple. But here's the other side of it. Belief isn't just about evidence. It is also willingness. Think about it like a scale. On one side is evidence. On the other side is openness. If you are very open to something, you don't need much evidence before you believe. If you are very close to it, you can demand evidence forever and still not accept it. So it's not really about the provision or the availability of evidence, the existence of an evidence. It's about the condition of your mind, and not just your mind, the condition of your heart, to actually accept that thing for what it is at face value. Because actually faith is what we accept at face value, believing that what we have accepted will manifest. So I see this play out in real life all the time. Two people can look at the same information and walk away with completely different conclusions. And honestly, the same thing shows up in the science conversation. The idea that the universe came from nothing, then organized itself, created life, and eventually produced consciousness. That also requires a level of belief. We call it theory because there is still a lot we don't fully understand about it. So at some level, everyone is trusting a framework, whether it is by design or by chance. And that is why I don't see this as a simple intelligence issue. It's not that she doesn't understand. She's struggling, she's wrestling. Just like the majority of us, sometime in our lives, we're struggling to know if this Christianity of a thing is really something, it's really a belief, it's really the right religion we should jump into. Likewise here, she's asking questions, and I actually respect that, because blind belief and blind disbelief are the same thing in different directions.
So God couldn't create free creatures and force them not to disobey him, because if he did, then they wouldn't be free. That'd be a contradiction.
I'm not saying anything about forcing. I'm saying that that theoretically he could have created perfect minds who would have logically agreed because they were perfect. The ability to err is inherently imperfect.
No, the ability to err or disobey is the ability to either follow or not follow, and that's what morality is. So without morality, you don't have love. Of course, you don't have evil either, but you have a robot world.
Again, I just don't see how somebody who created, and just the idea that God is logic, that's inherently who he is, just...
Well, where do you think the laws of logic come from?
Well, in general, we discover them, definitely.
We did, yeah, you're right. We discover them, we do not create them. So
yeah. But
what's the grounding of them?
Well, but he created everything. The grounding...
He didn't create his own nature. His own nature always existed. So he didn't create the laws of logic or the laws of mathematics. He couldn't create a universe where 2 + 2 = 5. Okay? So he is the ground, the butt somewhere, God's nature. So my question for people that don't believe in God is not just where did the universe come from, but where do the laws of logic come from? Where do the laws of mathematics come from? Where do the laws of morality come from? They appear to be best grounded in the nature of God.
Or they could be a completely third option that we as humans simply have not discovered yet, as we have not discovered many things for millions of years in our existence until recent days.
All right, let me ask you a question. It's either grounded in a being that transcends the world or not. If it if the laws of logic, I forgot where I was going now. This is illogical now, isn't it?
I think you were...
Let me ask you a question another way.
Okay, yeah.
Either the laws of logic are grounded in a mind or they're not. What makes more sense?
Why does it have to be a mind?
Because they're immaterial laws of thought.
Yeah. Just because we only know of the existence of a mind doesn't mean there couldn't be a third possible thing. That's what I'm saying. There's always a third possibility.
No, there's no third possibility between it's either grounded in a mind or it's not. There's no third possibility.
Why do you say that?
Because it's just the law of the excluded middle. It's either A or non-A. It's either a mind or not a mind.
Okay, so I say it could be not a mind, and that doesn't mean that it's nothing. It could just be something that isn't a mind that we have not discovered yet.
So you're finding qualities of a mind in a non-mind, essentially.
We as humans tend to project a lot of the things about our world onto the world around us. We could be projecting entirely the idea that it is a mind that created everything, and it's not a mind at all.
Yeah, we always reason from effect back to cause. You're right about that.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you a question. If Christianity were true, would you become a Christian?
I mean, probably, yeah.
So the answer is no, then.
Well, what do you mean by that specifically?
If it turned out that God exists and Jesus predicted and accomplished his own resurrection from the dead to prove he was God, would you follow him?
So do you mean that everything in the Bible is 100% true as it's stated? I'm not necessarily talking about like the logicalities of Noah's Ark or whatever, but like the Savior, the whatever.
Yeah, mere Christianity, the essentials of mere Christianity. There is a God, you are not him. You're fallen, I'm fallen. We violated the standard of justice, and we can't save ourselves. That God came into this universe, added humanity to his deity, took our punishment upon himself, and by trusting in him, we're not only forgiven, but given his righteousness, and he will come again to judge the living and the dead.
Well, then yes, absolutely. But the existence of Jesus, even if you manage to prove that he resurrected, doesn't prove that what the Bible teaches is true.
If he did predict and accomplish his own resurrection from the dead, the Bible has that right then. And if he truly did do that, then he would be God, and whatever he taught would be true. And if he taught the Old Testament was the Word of God and promised the New Testament, that's pretty good evidence that the Bible's true.
They're all fantastical claims that, and I know you did talk about this in your book, that require fantastical evidence, but if it's a fantastical evidence, then it's not a miracle. I know. But I'm just saying, like, you can't just keep jumping from one conclusion to another. Just because somebody rose from the dead, it doesn't mean that they are inherently connected to the infinite, all-powerful, all-knowing being.
Unless it was predicted in advance and it's in a religious, theological context, which is what happened with Jesus.
That is questionable based on the rewritings of Mark, which was the first gospel, but I feel like I've been up here too long.
Where this conversation really lands for me is not the logic that the college student, Jane, is arguing with. It is the heart behind it, because once you follow the argument all the way through, the real tension in it begins to show up. If there is a God, then I am not the center. We are not the center. We are accountable. Our lives aren't just ours to define however we want. And that is an uncomfortable truth, because it means there is an authority above us. On the other hand, if there is no God, then we are completely self-directed, self-piloting. No ultimate accountability, no higher standard beyond what humans decide. And that idea feels freeing. It is freeing in a way, but it also comes with its own questions about meaning. What's the meaning of life? What's the purpose of life? And where morality actually comes from. Yeah, the urge in us to do right or to do wrong, where does it come from? These have to come from somewhere. And without a central being the center of our lives, then all those philosophies, all those questions about morality starts to mean nothing. And this is why faith in Christianity is not meant to be an emotional decision. Yes, remember, Jesus actually tells us to count the cost before following him. Jesus himself is the most logical man I have ever come across in the Bible. Jesus is very logical. Remember the event of the woman that was caught in the act of adultery. Look at the logic Jesus used to solve that issue. It would have been a very big, great, magnificent issue, but Jesus used logic to counter them. And so the Bible talks about seeking wisdom, thinking carefully, logically, and being ready to defend what we believe. So faith is not supposed to replace logic. So it's supposed to come after you have wrestled with the questions in your mind and have come to terms with the fact that the step you are about to take by accepting Jesus is the right step. And when I watched this particular confrontation between Jane and the professor, I didn't see a girl who was stupid or arrogant. Honestly, I saw someone who came in confident in her objections, but walked away with quieter and more logical mind than she came with. She did not just force herself into belief. She allowed the conversation hit her. And sometimes The biggest impact is not when someone changes their mind on the spot. It's when they leave the room thinking a lot harder than they expected to, and then quietly re-examining their life, their assumptions, and the direction they have gone all their lives. And for this college student, Jane, I pray that someday she stops running and accepts the truth for what it is without needing much evidence. Thank you for watching. Let these questions, let these thoughts prevail in your mind. Look forward for our next latest updates. And please subscribe. Leave a comment below.
I feel like I've been up here too long.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.
Of course, yeah. Thank you for talking to me.
God bless you. Appreciate it.